I think you would need to play like the number's probably around somewhere between like 20 and 24 flyers to make it work. So if you want to work this deck to more Huru flyers, I think we could probably make that happen. If you want this to just be more like a Huru aggro / mid-range deck, then I don't think we could play Igor Outlet. So that's kind of up to you of what direction you want to take this.
Talk through what that would look like. So if we were to make it Huru flyers, that would mean that we would lose...
If we definitely cut Feast Color, but instead we just play a meal, which might be better anyways. I don't know offhand. I think both are like really solid top end. In a deck that like this deck is really taxing to play against sometimes where we have cards like Huru Pacifier can't be torched, so it makes you burn a Slay or something, for example. Like a lot of our threats are really awkward. You can't Permafrost Kothon, so they end up burning their best removal to beat some of our lesser threats, and then you jam the 5-drop at the top end, and if that happens, then a lot of times they can't answer it because you're already burned their good removal and then might be left with like a torch in hand.
Yeah.
What is my chat talking about? I don't know if you have my chat open. So if let's pretend, alright, let's build, why don't we just build both versions? Why not? So I don't know how should we share screens? So we can have you look at my screen for like through chat. I could try to share screens with you, whatever you'd like. Share screen is probably the best, presuming my internet doesn't crash.
So I can just look at your stream and then just kind of change my deck to what you're doing.
Sure. So there's no way you would play Miner's Canary in this deck. So let's just run through. Let's see what flies. That's all I want to know. Is it flying on these cards? Yes. Okay. So what flies in Huru? We have Akaria, which is okay, especially if we go bigger. I think Tinker Overseer is like quite good, especially since you want that critical mass, especially if you want Eager Outlet. I think it's just a solid card, and then you could play Oathbook in this deck if you want it in that case. Which could trigger it. Say what Runehammer, if actually you can't play Runehammer, right? We have Pacifier. So what else are we looking at? We have Enforcer, we have Commando. We don't need stuff like Inquisitor's Blade. So really, like Injustice, we want a meal as the big one. In Primal, we don't really get a lot, I don't think. Like I don't think we would ever want access to what's the card called? I can't find it. Cloud Snake Harrier, because I think not only is the Influencer so heavy Justice early, but I don't know if we actually just want a 3-mana 3/3 flyer in this type of deck. So what else do we have access to? Is there any good Huru flyers? I guess there's like Island. You could play like Thunderstrike Dragon if we played... What are you playing? 29 power? You could look at Thunderstrike as some top end if you wanted to. Or Nostrix. Did you have any cards you wanted to try for this style?
No, that all makes sense to me, especially if we're making a flyers deck as replacement for Feast Call. I guess a melee sense.
I think a melee is just replacing Feast Caller for building a Flyers version.
Like that. Then, do you think that makes enough Flyers that... Or is it better to try something else there?
Well, okay, so let's cut Feasty and put a meal in. So we can adjust power base if we need to for this after, but then we're looking at 20 flyers that aren't Eager Outlet, I think, right? 8, 12. Yeah, we're at 20 flyers. How good do you think Ceviche is in this type of deck? I think it's solid.
I've had a lot of success with it, yeah. I mean, it's I found it just sort of nice when you get flyers and then you can just kind of lock it down for a couple turns with that, especially against more controlling decks. But you know, I don't know. I don't know if it's right in the Flyers version.
So I think it's like it gets the fine mark. Like we might be able to find something better, but I think it's better than a lot of the options. The thing that playing her kind of justifies, though, to me, is she is like pseudo harsh roll protection. So if we're going to do that, I think we can cut protect.
Yeah. So I mean, the other thing I like about it is a little bit of card draw on games that go long, which if Feast Caller isn't in there, I would guess we'd probably need. I think playing Shelter Wing Rider without Protect is fine.
I agree. So
about cutting Protect.
I think if we cut Protect, we could just say, okay, do we want to play 4 Eager Outlet? Because that would just slot in. Sorry. One thing we should, I think, consider is, do we want to talk about anything like a Nostrix or an Island or anything like that? Or do you think we need to go that big? Like, I don't know how big we want to make this deck. Because I know originally this was more of a tempo/aggressive deck.
You know, I mean, I'm open to your suggestion. I had initially kind of thought of it as a sort of tempo aggression, kind of get a bunch of threats out. Open to trying different things, and if you think that's not the best build of it, or you know, we could even try this version and then try a bigger version. We got a little bit of time, right?
Yeah, we did this for 2 hours, so that's a lot of time, most likely. So the things that come to my mind right now are how good is... So the bigger you go, the worse Finest Hour gets. Because you play, like, you have less turns where you go, for example, like, your best Finest Hour turns might be play a 2-drop on turn 2. On turn 3, attack with that 2-drop, play and Finest Hour it, and then play another 2-drop. Like, that generates such a lead. The higher we make the curve, the worse Finest Hour we'll get because we have less time to play 2 spells at a turn. So I think that's something we need to consider, that if we ever, like, if we want to start playing cards that are like Island or Nostrix, maybe as a 1 or 2 of, then I think we should probably consider trimming Finest Hour for them. Which I think would be like, I think it would be okay. So like, there's a couple of ways we can build this. I think we should cut the protects though.
Let's do it.
So I think we can cut Protect for Eager Outlets if we want. That puts us at 24 flyers, 23 when it comes to, you know, you need 1 other flyer to activate, so there's 23 other sources. So I think what we could look at right now, I think I like the mirror image. I know that's something you messaged me about and saying, you know, you weren't fully sure of. I think there's enough good targets in this deck. And, like, Mirror Image can be, you know, okay, it can race against aggro if you get it on Commando. It can take, like, imagine you having a meal that's at, like, you know, make a 2/2 or something. Just, it's good to copy a meal is what I'm going for. It's good if you ever Nostrix something, if we play Nostrix. And it's really good if you're trying to beat Herschel against, with Ceviche, which I'm definitely saying wrong. Where
I like it. It sounds like ceviche. Delicious.
Wait, what is that?
Just making a joke. It almost sounds like, you know, ceviche.
I don't know what it is.
Like a Spanish raw fish kind of dish.
Interesting.
Delicious.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. So right now, the version I have on screen is like, this is probably the more aggressive version. One thing to note, though, I think regardless of what version we play, I think Finest Hour is kind of meh, where we're not playing that many ground units in this version. So we might have room for a couple other cards here.
Can we talk about that for a second, just because I was sort of going to ask, like, you know, if we cut Finest Hour, do we need more removal? But maybe your point is right, if all our creatures are kind of about evasion, and Finest Hour is really best when, like, you're blocking or stuff's being blocked and we're kind of trying to work around that. It's not that great, huh?
So Finest gets a little worse in that case. Now, of course, there are times you play like an aerial battle like against TJP. But against TJP, what you want to do is is to create value in other ways. Like, if they can't answer Emil, then Emil will run away with the game, for example. But I think, like, I don't mind having access to some number of Finest Hour because it can counter a Torch and things like that. Although Torch is actually pretty bad against our deck. We only have 12 units that can be torched. Or, sorry, 16.
When you're trying to attack with an Eager Outlet, like in a Valkyrie Enforcer, and then they torch the Enforcer, feels bad attacking with a 0 Eager Outlet.
Yeah, so I think we can... I think the correct thing here is to probably trim some number but not cut Finest Hour. So, like, let's say we trim 1 or 2. So what other cards could we look at playing? We have 29 power, so we could support playing, you know, a Thunderstrike, a Nostrix, or something like that. But we could also look to an aggressive side.
Like 6 removal is about where we want to be?
Yeah, I think so. I think we probably want 6-ish. Now, the question is, what's the combination? It might be 3 perma, 3 vanquish, something like that. But I think 6 is fine between the two of them. Guys, I'm not pronouncing cards that bad, right? So, I think if we're going to trim on Finest, what cards should we look at? So, the question is, do we want top end or something more aggressive? I think if we're going aggressive, we probably just want to look at, oh my god, what's the name? 2 mana, 2/2 flyer. Tinker Overseer. I think that's probably like the best flyer that we're not playing right now. At least that's low on the curve. Go ahead.
Boost, just kind of as a vanilla 2/2 flyer.
Yeah, like, that's all it is, and I'm not sure that's good enough, but it's something. One thing we could, I just realized it and just was like, remind me later when we build the version that's so on the ground, we could actually consider Dark Veil Agent for that deck. As a way to get Aegis. But I don't think we need it for this version. So, go ahead.
Thinking about Dark Veil Agent, I'd sort of forgotten about that card. That's interesting. That's nice with the Shelter Wind Rider too.
Yeah. That's kind of the big one, and like if you get that going as like a control deck, it could be very good. And it also requires you to answer that card instead of answering something else, which is okay. So I think, like, chat brings up a good point where there are 16 torchable units. A lot of them still gain you value, like Enforcer, and Sheltering Rider still lives, but they do. Wow, my words just fell apart. But some of these are bad into torch. Like Eager Outlet's still gonna get torched, which Finest Hour deals with, which is true. So that could be a consideration to play all the Finest Hours if we think, well, torch is gonna be a big enough problem.
Someone in chat recommend Finish Whore? What is Finish Whore?
I think it's Finest Hour. I think our chat's just started drinking. Guys, it's a bit too early for that, right? Guys, it's too early. What the hell, chat?
I'm for it. I like it. Okay, so what are you thinking? Finest Hour to deal with the torches?
What we can do here, we have plenty of time. We could just try this version in some games and then decide, okay, like, I think the answer is going to be that we're playing too many Finest Hours right now, but you never know. And if you're playing against a metagame that has a lot of people playing aggressive torch decks, then we probably want more access to stuff like that. And that would be definitely a scenario where you don't want these top ends like Nostrix. You just want to be a more efficient deck. So
It seems very exciting, but maybe I'm underrating the utility of just having a quick flyer out.
yeah, so I think the cards that we need to like keep an eye on is how good is our removal suite. You know, do we want the third Vanquish? Do we want 4 Finest, or do we want some more top end? Before we actually jump into games, we should probably look at your power base a little bit. So what was the reason for 2 banners?
You know, honestly, and this would be a thing that would be super helpful. I can't say I think I have a lot of really good templates in my mind of how to build power. I think it's likely I had just like copied from either Tony or from a TJP list, and I was just sort of like copy paste some power base. So honestly, no thought at all. I'd love to hear how you approach building power bases.
Okay, so first, we're playing a 2-faction deck. That makes this significantly easier. So, if you look at the power options in your menu, by default, so, because we're living in a world where, they decided not to release the other crests, we don't have access to the Huru crest. In any deck that doesn't have access to its crest, I think you just have to play the 8 dual lands in Banner and Seat. So what I would do by default is just cut 1 of each power for
4 Seek power in there.
I think 4 Seeks are fine. I think you're gonna want it because our influence requirements are still what 2 Primal and 3 Justice, and we need the 2nd Justice online pretty early in this deck. Like you need it by turn 3.
Not play Seek power in.
Oh, can you say that again then?
Where you don't put in Seek power.
Okay, so if you don't play Seek power in in the worlds where you don't play Seek power, you're still gonna probably have the same power base. Seek power will potentially change things where how do I word this? Where like it could change the amount of sigils you want to play. Basically, you want to play like 12 sigils, including Seek powers for your Seeks. For your Seats. And
I just mean, like, are there any decks where you look at it and you think this is not a Seek power deck? Like, I don't want to play Seek power in that deck.
So decks. Then, like, go ahead.
What would those decks be like where you'd look at it and be like, this isn't a Seek power deck?
So let's ignore the scenario with this question at first where you're like sometimes what happens is you end up playing a deck that is like you'd rather play Vera's Favor. Now if you're playing a deck that just doesn't need power, like extra power sources, those decks are the very aggressive ones. Those are ones that are like 2 colors and topping out on like 3. Even a deck like Starscar Gunslingers, which is playing it's playing 8 4-drops. That deck still wants to play at least 2 Vera's Favor or 2 Seek power, 2 extra power sources. So as a general statement, if you're playing 2 colors and you're playing with a really low curve, and I mean really low as in like top set at 3 or doesn't rely on getting to that 4 or 5. So for example, if you look at Rakano Aggro, a version that plays plate as a top end, then it's kind of awkward where, well, I want to be able to cast my plate, but that deck has so much to do with its early game that plate is like extra toppings, and if you're not going to, in that deck, if you don't flood, then you're drawing gas every turn. So that deck is okay with it. But if you're playing a deck that could get stuck with a bunch of, 4 and 5 drops in hand, you still want that extra power sources. And instead of playing like, instead of just playing 29 power so you don't use your power seeking, this is so you can kind of abuse the redraw system and get more cards in your hand, or more power in your hand if you need them. I think I'm making our chat hungry by talking about toppings.
Right on. Well, what do you think? Should we take this version out for a spin?
Sure. We may want to talk a little bit more about the power base beforehand. Just do we want to play any Waystones or anything like that? By default, you kind of just do. Like, they're kind of free. We're playing 17 sigils. Like, we're gonna turn these seats on fine.
Okay.
So, the question is, how much do we care about Cobalt Waystone? So, we care in the scenario where we're holding up, like, Permafrost for their threat. And then Emerald Waystone is better against aggro, but we don't have any weapons to abuse it because we might be playing Hero Pacifier. I generally like Emerald Waystone more than Cobalt in this deck because Sabotage and Hand Affecting is really weak. The one thing we need to note, though, is a card like Obliterate could be a problem if we don't play Cobalt Waystone. So, right now, what do you think we're going to play more against? Do we want to try to beat cards like Obliterate and face Torches, or do we want to try to just gain a little more life in creature matches?
Interesting question. So, what do you think this deck is weakest to?
I think what you're going to be...
Speaking out about.
I think your issues are going to be actually more of a card thing, and I think we're going to struggle with Sandstorm Titan a little bit, because Flyers is a general, which means we probably end up playing like 3 Perma, 3 Vanquish, but that's fine. We can figure that out later. And then I also think we may have some issues with Harsh Rule decks when we don't draw the Savita, which apparently I can't say. I think chat mentioned Cobalt Monument. I think that's a card we should consider, and I think we should play 1 or 2 Cobalt Monuments.
I'm trying to think if it doesn't seem like there's an answer to the Monument question from Sandstorm Titan or Harsh Rule.
I agree. Well, Cobalt Monument kind of does because it creates more threats in your deck. So I think what we want to do is something in the lines of like turn 2 Primal Sigils into 2 Cobalt Monuments. We don't want too many of them. And then besides that, I think we want to look at maybe like some Emerald Waystones. So if we were to cut 6 power for those, we'd have 11 Sigils plus 4 Seek power. That's definitely fine for our seats. Because I think we want extra threats in this deck. So I think that's what we're going to look at is like 2 Cobalt Waystone and 4 Emerald Monument. I think we just want that redundancy in our power base. So Emerald Waystone to gain us some extra life because we aren't trying to block. That's something we have to keep in mind. We're trying to create a race. We're trying to create tempo. Because our creatures often are overstated for their cost and they fly. So because of that, I think we want to have the Emerald Waystone to gain us some life because we are often going to be racing. So I think something like this is worth trying. I think there's a couple of changes we'll make after we play a few games, but if you want, you can jump into some games and we can spectate and talk through the games and what we like.
I hope we play the Overmaster. The Overmaster kicks my ass on the regular, so hopefully you can give me some tips on how to crush him.
Fair. I believe you pronounce that word as hooroo, but I could just be an idiot. So yeah, whenever you want to jump into games, if you have the list.
Finish Uru. Okay, so Justice Emerald. Let me just make sure I'm matched up. I don't have the Monument. And sorry, give me 1 sec to.
I can just export it if you want.
I think I got it. I'm just like a couple cards off. 2 Monuments. I think I'm all set.
Cool. Alright, let's jump into some games. So, for chat, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be spectating, we're going to be talking through different turns, and what our options are, how we can min-max scenarios, etc. I find this more entertaining than Eternal.
Think through a little bit. When I've had similar things, I have a problem where it's like you're talking to the coach you like time out. So I'll try to do a good job stuff, but paying attention to the timer. But like so during the team event, King Breath was super nice and watched me play a couple games and was super helpful. But we kept having this problem where we'd be talking and then all of a sudden it would pass the turn from time.
I have seen that happen. Right, so whenever you get in the game, we'll spectate you. You have spectating allowed, I assume?
Yeah, I should. Let me just, I guess I can double check. That's under like settings or something. What is that under?
Don't know. You might just want to jump into a game and see if I can spectate.
Searching for an opponent now. Oh, here we go.
Cool. Alright. So we'll talk through mulligans and things like that. Alright, so what do we have? So we have a lot of top end. The problem with this hand, in my opinion, is that we need multiple things. We need both more cards because we don't have enough threats, and we need power. As a general rule, when you need more than one thing for your hand to go well, I think hands like this are generally a mulligan, so I like getting rid of this one. And this is okay.
Yeah, a little awkward, but...
If we can find some extra power, this would be good. Without some power, this could be a really awkward game. But this deck will get so much better post-Crest, though. So will every hero deck. Oh. We don't really have anything to discuss here.
Yeah, I'll just... Yes.
We're just doing the classic way. So this is a turn worth talking about. Do we want a Perma or Kothan? So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's tough. I normally wouldn't say Perma the Assassin, but just, I guess the Power Screw has me a little bit worried. So maybe I would just be panicking.
So I personally like Kothan and then try to trade it off here. And I like that because I'm presuming we're going to have these power troubles for a little while. And because of that, I want to use our Permafrost as something bigger. And if he decides to go like, so I'd like to trade here because I think we're playing from behind. And if he plays other threats, we could be Permafrosting them and things like that to try to get back in this. Now this is interesting of, should we perma this and make future turns worse for us? Or like, you know, the more threats he has, the worse it is? Or should we just let him get at these war cries and build up? I think right now, we're in a position where our hand is so bad that we might just need to pass, let him have these war cries, and hope he plays like a weapon to get a 2-for-1 here.
Yeah, yeah.
I think our chat thinks we're having an internet date. So the fact that he's just committing threats is kind of awkward. We really want him to be playing weapons. Okay. So I don't think we care very much about Enforcer here. I think we are just playing the power and saying go. Because I think we're gonna need to perma more, we're gonna need to perma something probably more impactful in the future.
Whenever he's getting all those war cries.
Yeah, the war cries are annoying. I hope they don't hit anything too good. That's pretty good. So this is interesting. We can play Vanquish and then kind of have a shitty turn. Or we could do something like, alright, let me rephrase. For us to win this game by casting Permafrost on Interrogator is probably near impossible. So I think we either need to decide here, do we want to take a bunch of damage and develop and make him have removal? Or do we want to cast Vanquish and not develop this turn?
I guess my instinct would be to get rid of the Interrogator.
I think... So... Our hand is already bad, and like for us to win this game, we're going to need to get kind of lucky, but I think you just kind of have to Vanquish it now. And I don't think you blow the perma. I think we're gonna need to, like, we have the ability to block his stuff very well now, that I think we just wanna stall the game. If he plays a Tavrod, we're obviously so behind. But we have to do something and kind of play to him not having it at this point. Okay. So what's our options? It's interesting. Yeah, I think we're probably just jamming Shelter Wing here. Although, if he does nothing, we might just want to play Savita because it can trade with the 2-2, and he can't play a weapon. So that limits his amount of good draws. Okay. Now I think we have to play Shelter Wing and just try to block.
Alright!
I don't think we're winning otherwise. Also, Mulligan, thank you for the host, dude. Welcome on in. I really appreciate that. Welcome on in to you and your viewers. It's interesting, chat likes the option of permafrosting on turn 3, I think, this game. That's kind of interesting that we disagree there. If our opponent has, like, a Slay, we're in trouble, or a Bloodletter is a problem, that's a weird choice. I think you just have to trade with the 7-5, though. I think our whole...
You think you should have put the blade on the deadly unit?
I think he should have put it on... Well, no, I think he might have wanted to put it on the 3-3. I don't know if it matters to him here. No, I think he chose the right choice. He's pushing the most damage.
For the 7-5?
Yeah, I think you have to block the 7-5. And kind of just hope that he runs out of gas. If he runs out of gas, our hand is very good and we could stabilize. So we can play Shelter Wing and have problems with the ground unit, or we could play Savita and answer the ground unit and go to 3. I think by default we need to just play cards like Shelter Wing, but we could actually consider playing Haru Pacifier here. Because it does the same thing, but then it beats the Bloodletter draw or the Blade. So I think we want to play Pacifier. I think it's better than Shelter Wing. It's bad if he has Slay. Go ahead with what you were going to say.
I think I probably wouldn't have played Pacifier. I think I probably would have played Rider Savita, so that's good to... options.
Okay, so...
Blocking Forcer, yeah.
This reads to me as probably him having Vera's favor, but you just have to make him have it. So I would block the 3-3. This is a paid one. I'm going to say Drew Finest. Okay. I'm going to be giving away one soon. I just haven't had chance yet. Okay. We're dead. We're very dead on this board.
I'm actually happy to move on to the next game, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just dead on this one. So I think the things we could talk about in that game before we move on to the next was, I believe it was the turn after Kothon. So when we decided not to permafrost, I know I read chat and a lot of people disagreed. So let's talk about that line a little bit. And I could be wrong here, so let's discuss. My original thought process there was, we need, or let me figure out how to word this. We need to find a way to come back in the game, and I think we needed to try to just play blockers and survive the 2-2 instead of dying to something like an impending doom. My goal was to try to get value. So, for example, if he played one of his weapons, then we could get the 2-for-1, which is one of the best ways to come back in a game, is to kind of let your opponent just use all their resources before you do.
Thinking about sabotage should even be a relevant consideration there. My only thought after they sabotage is that we have so few sabotage targets in the deck.
Yeah.
You know, maybe hanging on to a spell when we know opponent has when an opponent has sabotage in their deck is maybe incorrect. But I don't know if that's even a thing we're thinking about.
Well, it's a scenario of like I don't know if they had a chance to cast it beforehand, so we don't know if they drew for turn, but that doesn't really matter. The situation there is, I think we can agree. Okay, if they if they take permafrost, it's a feel bad. We wish we played it. One thing the chat mentioned that we maybe wanted to talk about beforehand was we had a situation where he played the Enforcer for no value, just to get a threat on the board. So that told us one of two things. His hand was either threat light, removal heavy, I guess this is three things, or he had another Enforcer, so he could beat the permafrost by that logic. I can understand not playing the perma on the 2-2 originally. I think once he played the Enforcer, we could have potentially looked at the perma again. I don't necessarily think that's a punt, chat. I think it's a debatable situation. So that's kind of interesting. It depends on what assault you want to take. It's if you want to go for more value, you could hold the perma. If you want to play around Sabo, and use your power more efficiently, then we can perma.
Yeah, interesting.
So I think that's a situation that's kind of debatable. I don't know if there's a right answer because there's merits to each line, and you're playing to different outs in each scenario. So it's interesting. If you want to jump into another game,
I think it's helpful to your point about you know, when he played the Enforcer for no value. What does that mean?
Yeah,
those sorts of things are good to think about.
I mean, I didn't mention it, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but I think we should have. I think that was something that might have been a big enough signal to go with, because obviously if he has, say, Interrogator there, he's playing it. I believe he played that when he had 4 power, so he could have played, you know, Impending Doom, or whatever threat. So maybe that should have been enough of a sign for us to go, well, I think this permafrost is good.
All right, should we move on next one?
Yep.
Again.
So that was an interesting decision that in that game it cost us the game, but the question was it the wrong play not to do? All right, what are we working with? What's your thoughts on this hand?
Love it. I think I would redraw it just because it seems like a lot of 4 drops, no smaller units. 4 is okay, but we can't catch Shelterwing Rider. I
also like shipping this hand, just because we have a lot of better draws than that. This is okay.
A little power heavy, but I guess Monument can.
So one interesting thing is, what do we want to lead on? Do we want to play a seat and get a sigil, or do we want to just play at the Monument? What do you like here?
Because we're a little power heavy, I would say save the Monument.
I agree. So I like Seeking, and then if we pretend we don't have the Monument in hand, well, we need another primal source. Bode, I actually probably would have made that play still. So it doesn't really matter which power we play here, but I think we agreed to hold the Monument.
Yeah, and then nobody's going to play the Waystone either.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like we're like, well, we really need a seat next turn. That's the only real situation where we'd make that play. So we're potentially against TJP or Huru. Now, we know that we're entering the Enforcer turn. So what 3-drop do you think we play here, and why?
I like saving Unseen Command. So I guess I like leading with Huru Pacifier. Just because I think Unseen Command is so powerful, we want to save removal for that, and then also it gives Pacifier a boost next turn when it's attacking. I
think you're 100% right. I think Pacifier is the best play here. Also, if your opponent plays an Enforcer here, we're okay with it.
Next turn is interesting if we don't draw power.
Well,
if we hadn't drawn power, you think play the Monument just to ensure we get Amelia in 5?
If we had drawn, let's say, a Finest Hour, you know, just a blank, I don't hate it because we don't know what we're against, but it looks like we might actually be against the control deck. So by that logic, you could also be a bit greedy. And hold on to it because, well, you want all the threats. So we're definitely playing our seat here, though. Because our deck curves at...
I agree with you, but just to check in, for trying to keep up Finest Hour for Hailstorm?
I don't think so, because it would just be a 1-for-1. And I think throwing yourself off tempo is kind of awkward. Now, we don't really know what we're against yet. Okay, there's the Hailstorm. We don't know if we're against the Harsh Rule deck. So, I think this turn... okay. I think this turn we actually play the Monument. Like, as a creature. Because it's better, you know, if we're going to get Harsh Ruled, I'd rather have access to a meal after. So, one thing I want to note there is you attacked before playing the threat. Doing that gave your opponent the signal that you had a fast spell.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I think we're obviously going to Seek here, just to get it out of our hand, get it out of our deck. But I think we just want to play a meal, because Kothon is kind of a later game thing, and we don't want to turn his Hailstorm online if he has another one.
Sequencing. Going back to that last turn, you would have played out your threat and then attacked.
Yeah, because your opponent couldn't have, like, Annihilate or anything there, so you kind of give your opponent more free information.
Alright!
Alright, I need to say thanks to Child Rowan and Yadobite for the auto host. So I have a spectator bug, so I have no idea how many cards are in your opponent's hand.
Oh, 4.
Okay. So if there's 4 cards in his hand, do we know anything about it? No. So I think we just are kind of forced to play 2 threats. At least one of these should stick. If he has a 3rd sweeper, then it's kind of awkward because it kind of deals with both. But if his turn is just like kill Kothon, take 5, then we're not in a horrible spot. Now we're probably in a horrible spot. So he has, what, 3 cards in hand?
Shelterwing Rider looks kind of bad in these control matchups. But
yeah, he's a bit awkward there. I don't think we're ever, like, Finest Hour to get 3 damage here unless it kills him. I don't think we ever have to look at that. The nice thing is Shelterwing still lives. And because of that, it lets our Eager turn on. But yeah, this is one of the scenarios where we wish we had something like Stand Together, but we're not looking at the time version right now. So we need to find threats for the next couple of turns. Like, every threat we draw is fine. Imagine plays the monument as a power, this date is over. I hate my Twitch chat sometimes. Prada has all of the cards in his hand, apparently, because visual bugs. What? So this is double Lightning Storm. This is a really good turn for you, because you get to Finest Hour it.
Taste it.
And now... So how many cards are in your opponent's hand? I'm sorry, I can't see it.
Updating you, they're at 3 now.
Okay. So now you get at least 3 points, and I don't think you ever play the power.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. If you draw another one, I think it's okay to play it. Well, now I know how many cards are in hand. That's fine. This is going to be a tough game to actually, like, win, though.
Touch of shadow.
But this was also... I'm not going into this right now. So, I know your opponent could kill it because he has face ages, but I think you still play it and play the power because you'd be happy to activate next turn if it lives.
Our only ways back in this game is trying to get Svetya's effect.
Yeah. I have no idea how many cards are in our opponent's hand here, friend, because it's impossible for me to know. Because visual bugs, what the fuck?
Shelter Wing Rider protection is.
Yeah, you're pretty safe.
What do we do here?
I think you still have to play. Like if Forcer doesn't contest, I think you might just be forced to pass and hope you draw an answer and hope he doesn't draw like a Hailstorm plus the mana to activate. I guess that would be Lightning Storm, but like your options are very limited here. We kind of just ran out of threats, and this is one of my concerns for going in and not playing time is I'm worried about the ability to actually. That doesn't work.
What were they trying to do there?
They thought, okay, the card says Deadly on it if you were to mouse over it right now, because it technically has Deadly. So you could play 2 threats here. That's your options are play 2 threats or play no threats. But I think this is the line that actually plays towards winning the game still. If he has an Omen here, then you should probably just scoop. Yeah, you're dead. You're very dead. So that was a game where we kind of just, like, our opponent had enough card advantage. I don't know if we did anything wrong, so to say. Because, like, I think this deck without something like Standing Together will struggle against the, like, hardcore control decks. But, like, unitless control should body most decks like this, I think.
Mm.
So, let's try, we can try this again for a couple more games, and then we'll look at trying some changes. Oh, you're in game. Alright, so what do we have? We have 2 power. What do you think of this hand?
I think keep.
I agree.
Justice with the sigil, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I think so. Gotta turn on that commander, but most of your deck is heavy Justice compared to Primal. This is a really solid start. Now the question is, what do you want to play? Emerald Waystone is going to be a struggle to turn on, so you need to consider drawing a seat next turn.
Okay, so maybe play Waystone?
I think you play Waystone because good luck turning this one on. Like you'd have to draw a lot of power. One interesting thing is if he blocks, do you block? Okay, now you obviously would.
Blocked, yeah.
So I don't know if this is just.
So, 'cause what's the downside there?
Yeah, if he wants to
fine.
torch it, you don't care. So I think this turn you're in a position where you can really leverage your finest hour. So I think what you want to do is actually play the second Eager Outlet. Now, if you're going to attack, you'd attack first. You still can attack, but like as a future reference, now you tell your opponent you have finest hour, and that might change his play. So, in the future, if you play the Eager, then attack, and then play the power, you get to represent. Okay, he's still making you do it, which is perfect. You still are ahead, and your opponent doesn't have a great way to interact. So we don't have a good block on the 3/3. We know that. We're obviously going to play a commander this turn, so the question is, are we attacking? So what do you think?
I mean, I think given that we have a couple of lifesteal, so I think without the lifesteal units or without the commando tint, but given that we have the lifesteal, that leads me to believe we should race.
I agree. So I think you probably hold back 1 outlet, just because then it blocks the 2/3 with that, or the 2/1 without you having to deal with blocking with commando or risking it. to note there, you did this. I would have played Commando first there, just so you don't tell him you have another fast bow or not. I think you're kind of forced to trade with the 3-3 and hope there's no finest hour though, because that's his only racing. And if there's no finest hour here, like you playing a second Commando and hitting for 7, it's just gonna win any race. So. I think we're just kind of slamming Commando and throwing cards at his face. Because you win this race.
Trust in your
Both.
skills.
Don't even worry about keeping back an outlet.
I don't think you need to block anymore type of thing. So, you could hold back the 3-3 if you wanted to. If you felt like you could lose this race, but I don't think you can. The only thing I guess we could even think about really is Deep Forge Plate. And if, you know, that's what we're trying to beat, then we have to answer that in a different way, and that's with Savita. So how much damage do you have? 11?
And maybe play Svetcha to and win next turn.
If we could play Svetcha, we would.
Besides that, yeah.
So I think you're attacking with everything this turn. The question is, what 2-drop do you want to play? Ordering's not going to matter here. So I think you just want to play the flyer. Awesome.
Yeah, okay, let's talk through some of that sequencing stuff, just because I think that's enough. So if I have a fast spell, I should play a unit so that I don't have any power up, so it doesn't reveal I have a fast spell, right?
Kinda. So in that situation, your opponent could not have a torch. Like, they had no power up, right? So because of that, it was, if you attack with, if you attack and let's imagine your opponent doesn't play the torch like you did, right? We're 1-2 right now. What ends up happening is your opponent can go on his turn, okay, well, I want to get this through, or I'm going to attack with a unit, and then try to finest hour through it, not knowing that you have your own. So basically, the scenario you create by denying your opponent the finest hour information can change how your opponent is going to play. Because it could say, okay, I don't want to play this torch, or I don't want to play this Sword of Akari, or whatever their deck is offering. They might not want to offer you trades, and it also makes, for example, if they went, okay, turn 3, let's play a Whirling Duo, and with no power up. Well, now you have the opportunity to finest hour it when they were thinking, oh, I can just trade. So denying your opponent information can sometimes change how they want to play. So if it's a no-risk scenario like that was, where your opponent could not interact on that turn because he had no power open, it's usually worth it to try to hold back information if you can.
Makes sense. Okay, so yeah, no, that's good. That's not something that I think about enough, clearly. So I was at 3 power. Play the 3 power unit, so I had 0 power when I attacked. Then after the attack, play a power to keep up finest hour. Oh.
And if you pass the turn there, then your opponent is in a spot where there's no pause there. Your opponent has never seen the pause for finest hour, so that they go into their turn not knowing if you have a pause. But if you attack first, your opponent now knows, okay, there's a pause, and they can say, okay, it could be levitate, it could be finest hour. You know, they can make the checklist and figure out, well, if it's finest hour, I don't want to make this play.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Sequencing and concealing information is definitely a thing I'm not putting enough thought into, or habits I'm developing, so that's good.
Yeah. Cool. So this is 3 games in. We'll probably play, 5 with this deck, and then we'll tweak it a bit. If you want.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. So, you jump into a game whenever you're good.
Searching for opponent now.
Cool.
Have you been playing in the Seal Deck League?
Yep.
Seal Deck been going?
I think I went 25 and 15. Deck was okay. Did you play in it?
Started off real hot the first couple of weeks, and then petered off the last couple. So I think I was like 17 or something like that.
Okay. So this is a really interesting hand, and I'm curious what you're going to say about Keeper Mo.
Keep, but it's close.
I think it's a keep. I think it's definitely a keep. Now the question to me is, how do you want to order your hand?
Like, what do I get with the Seek?
Well, okay. Do you want to cast Seek on turn 1?
Oh, I would think yes. Is that wrong?
I think so. There are sometimes you don't. And this is a hand that if you didn't have Finest Hour, so let's pretend Finest was Shelterwing Rider, I would tell you not to cast Seek on turn 1.
Interesting.
But because you want to leave up your third power, basically, because your curve is going to be Owl into Owl with Finest Hour, that I would seek.
Justice, yeah, because there's more units that require 2 Justice.
Yeah. So I wouldn't wait on Seek in this hand. I would in some situations.
The benefit of waiting on Seek just to see what you draw.
Imagine you drew a Justice Source. Well, then you can go, well, I need a Primal. Now it doesn't matter anymore. So now we're just jamming Eager. So this is a situation we could use our sequencing. If your opponent plays a 2-drop, he has no power open, right? So if you're gonna play Eager, you should play Eager and attack first. Because then you're
first just to pump it up, but yeah.
Yeah, because your opponent now knows nothing about this. So maybe he makes, I don't know, there's like a 3-drop weapon or something, right? Something that gives you a scenario where you might Finest. Now, do you want to block here?
I think just, yeah, I would say no. What do you think?
I think
especially because we turn off the other Eager.
Well, you have Shelterwing Rider for that. I think you're winning this race very hard right now, so I also don't like blocking. That's annoying. So that's kind of the punishment for this, but it's fine. Because you just get to start your turn and play Shelterwing most likely. That's an interesting draw though. So what do you like this turn? I can't hear you if you're talking.
I was just thinking, so first we would then keep up Finest Hour to trade. Like we would want to set up a block and trade. I guess I still like Gracing.
Yeah, so I think what you're looking to do here is say, okay, what is this Enforcer targeting? And I don't think it's a 3/3 flyer. I think you just jam your Shelterwing and attack for 3 and see if he wants to trade. Because I think you're actually the aggressor. And that's kind of the thing here is where we need to decide, you know, are we the aggro deck or are we the control deck in this situation? And I think especially with our hand, I think we are the person at being aggressive. Now, he has ways to change that by drawing, say, Bloodletter, but we can deal with that later. Because we have an answer to it. I don't think you ever have to block here.
And maybe save the Eager Owlet to chump a Tavrat or something like that. If it
Maybe.
comes up.
We could also flex the Eager Owlet to Finest Hour if we have to at some point. So this is, like, okay for us. Now, we have one problem here. We know he has a power in hand because of the seat. Are we going to play around Tavrod? Playing around Tavrod involves just saving the Enforcer. We've drawn a bit too much power here, to be honest. So we can either save the Enforcer and try to beat Tavrod, or we can try to beat the current board and play Enforcer.
I guess just because I don't think we're under... I might say wait and try to play around Tavron.
I like waiting because we're like, he does get war cries, but we're not under that much pressure.
Finest hour, the guy.
I think we may want to trade our Eager plus Finest here, yeah. Just because we don't want to fall too far behind. And a lot of his war cries are either going to hit weapons or flyers, both of which this Eager Islet / Finest aren't going to do anything against. And he has it. Well, don't we look smart? I think you just... Well, you're just vanquishing this. I don't think you even have to play the Enforcer. Now, the Who's the Beatdown article comes up, and I think our role might have actually changed. And we might actually be the control deck. He knows you have that power in hand, and you're not playing Strategize, so it doesn't matter if you play it or not. But I think you're not tempo enforcering. Okay. Jamming both of them and silencing is not a bad turn. So we don't have a way to beat Tavrod yet, which is awkward.
Hey, oh no, looks like your card thing is doing okay.
Yeah, we're good. I think you're just forced to take it, because, like, unless you want to chump block, but I think I'd rather chump block if it gets a bigger, gets like a bloodletter. Okay, is that 1 or 2 slays? That's 2 slays and a second Terra. So, yeah, you can attack, and, like, you might just be forced to play the second Enforcer, because this is kind of awkward, where our ability to race is kind of, yeah, we're not in a position to block yet, which is awkward. And now this is the punishment for playing Enforcer, but... And now we're just flooding out. So, we haven't... We can go to 6 here and just take the Tavrod hit and put Shelter Wing in front of the 2-3. We may as well attack with Enforcer, though. So there's things that we're in trouble with, but we could jump with Shelter if we have to. Okay, that's fine. So you can block the 3-4. Like, he's winning the race, obviously, but... It's okay.
Okay.
So, we're obviously going to silence the 2-3. Now the question is, do we attack? I think we can attack with our Enforcer. Because we still need to be getting some damage at some point. So the punishment here is him drawing Bloodletter and putting it on the 2-3. But besides that, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, was that right? You think to play the Waystone? I figured just because we're low in life, that 1 point of armor might be relevant.
It could be. I think it's fine. The information isn't worth a whole lot here. He already saboed you. So, chumping or taking this is fine. The safe thing is to probably chump. Because he could have Finest Hour. Okay, so now we can hold back. And maybe eat us a Tavrod. Oh, we gotta use it. The good news here, though, is this is gonna... Presuming no third Slayer or anything, this is at least gonna halt him from attacking for a turn. Alright, never mind.
Seems like we're dead.
We're dead, yeah. We end up taking 2 from the 2-3. 1 turn earlier would be fine, but the fact that he has Vanquish there to punish the Finest Hour is so awkward. Chat mentioned something that they're right. We had the option to get blown out by Finest Hour, and that's an ordering thing. So on the turn that we blocked with Eager Islet and Finest Hour, what we are supposed to do is to Finest Hour before we block to see if there's a pause.
Oh, okay. That's smart.
Yeah, if they had the Annihilate, then at that point they could have blown us out. So that was just an ordering thing. So, is there... Let's take a look at the deck list. So, you had... The things that we've noticed is we haven't drawn Mirror Image, which has been okay in a lot of these games. Would have been okay in a lot of these games. I think the problems are going to be fixed more by Vanquish, so I think we want to like go down to like 3 Perma, 3 Vanquish. I think that's just going to be needed. Because a lot of the things we struggle with are vanquishable. Is there any comments you had about the deck?
I'm trying not to overreact to small sample size. I don't know. No real conclusions. I mean, it didn't seem like anything went horribly wrong in the games where we had like power and stuff, but it didn't seem like we, did anything super powerful ourselves.
That's fair. I think we may want to actually look at playing 1 or 2 Nostrix. Specifically because it's so good with Shelter Wing Rider. Like, turning those back on is such a big deal. So I think we may want to look at 1, maybe 2 Nostrixes, just as an extra bit of top-in. Because it felt like a lot of those games we lost by kind of running out of stuff to do. So yeah, I think we could look at Nostrix. So if we go for Nostrix, we're probably looking at... How many do you think we want to play?
Yeah, so more than 2, it seems like would require power base, huh?
It'd probably require the 30th power, yeah. I think we just want to go with like 2.
Yeah, 2 seems right.
Okay, so if we're going to play 2 Nostrix, what do you want to cut? We also may want the 30th power anyways, which is interesting.
I mean, I guess it depends whether there's a rethinking of what the deck is doing. I mean, if we're still kind of want to keep the theme of flyers out there early and tempoing out the opponent and then kind of having Nostrix as a nice later game thing, cut a melee. But if we're trying to reconceptualize the deck to be a little bit more mid-rangey,
then we're probably looking at Eager Outlet or Mirror Image, 1 of the 2.
Yeah.
No, you can't keep the monuments if you play Nostrix. So, if we want to play Nostrix, chat's right that you could just play 4. That's definitely true. So, like, if we played 4, we'd probably want the 30th, maybe 31st power in some number somewhere. But I think we want to cut... If we're going to play Nostrix, we'd probably trim 1 or 2 Finest Hours.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
We could also cut a Mirror Image if we want. But I think we at least cut 1 Finest, maybe 2. We're definitely cutting Cobalt Monument. So, yeah, I think that's fine to cut maybe 2 Finest. Because the more, like... Our threats are already bigger than a lot of things, and Finest is something like you want to draw like 1 of them in a game and no more a lot of the time.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, I think we could cut 2 Finest down. Yeah, let's get rid of these Cobalt Monuments for just power now. So something like this might be a bit better. Just gives you, like, some extra angles of attack, I guess, is the best way I can word this. So, if you... Go ahead.
Oh, nothing. I'm just looking to make sure right.
I think if you wanted to change this further, I think the next things are to look at is, okay, do we want Nostrix's number 3 and 4? And if so, do we want to just cut Mirror Image? Because I think Mirror Image is like probably the worst card, and the higher you go on the curve, Mirror Image becomes more awkward. So we may want to look at Mirror Image if we want to cut, like I could very easily see going, okay, +2 Nostrix, +2 power, cut 4 Mirror Image. And then you have better top end. You have less snowballing potential, but you just play more top end, and you have a bit more power to do it. Plus, it makes new card the chat won't let me pronounce, right? That card gets better when it comes to the activations. It also would change the curve a little bit because you have a lot of 3s. So that might just be, that might be better. So I think either this or cut 4 image +2 power +4 Nostrix, or go to 4 Nostrix, which I think that might actually be better. And then you probably just play 27 power because Islands and Roland's favors are so weak. And if you do that, you probably could play 4 Cobalt Waystone. Because then you have, how many? You have 11 Sigils +4 Seeks. That's enough to turn on your seats. So I think this might just be a closer version to what we want to be at.
With only 2 Nostrix or 4 Nostrix?
4 Nostrix. I'll just post here in our chat. Here's what I have right now. So I cut the mirrors just to have more actual threats. I am very excited for just straight up Haru once we get the new crest. Like, regardless of what the other new cards are. What are the Emerald Waystones for? They gain you life. They just make, like, they're Waystones, we have enough power to, like, turn on our seats and stuff that they're basically free to put in our deck. So they, you know, if I could tell you, okay, every 4th Justice you pay, you're going to gain a life, and it was free, you'd be happy for that. So I think, like, mathematically, we have enough sigils that seats should be fine to turn on.
I'm all matched up.
Say again?
I'm good. I think Zach's good to go.
Okay, so this would be up to you what you want to do next. So we can play more of this deck. You mentioned you want to play some stuff you're not comfortable with, so we can work on that. It's up to you. We have like an hour-ish left here, so like that's... You're in charge.
Yeah, maybe let's try playing a control deck, just because I feel like I don't have as much success with those, and that'd be helpful to figure out what I could do better there.
So do you want to play like a hardcore control deck? Like, you know, when I say hardcore, I mean like Chalice, Temporal, Unitless, Hero Control, things like that. Or do you want to play something that's like Fountain Control, which is like, it's almost like a mid-range control deck where it's really just stunt your early stuff, draw some cards, and then try to win?
Yeah, I guess I think maybe the more all-the-way kind of control strategies, just because I feel like I'm okay with the mid-rangey stuff.
Okay. I'm looking for a deck. So one deck that I know I've had viewers who've liked this deck, and that would be, I don't know how often you get to watch the stream anymore, but when I played Haru with Slays, this is very close to a hardcore control deck that has a chance to just run you down with like a Feast Color potentially. So this is something.
I'm good, I dig it.
So this is up to you. I can go get you whatever, but this is just a list that you might like. So if you want me to get Chalice or Temporal or whatever, you just let me know what you actually want to try, and we can go from that.
Yeah, let me fire this up. So yeah, so win conditions, it looks like, are big weapons, or I guess channel too.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you want Feast Color and stuff, which, you know, that happens, but this is really a run your opponent out of resources deck. And that's what these style control are. Same with like Unitless control. It's kind of the same thing. It doesn't have the throw warded Feast Colors, but really it's a, okay, you've had your time to play the game, my turn.
Cool, looks great.
Okay. I'm just going to grab a list for somebody in chat, but if you want to play that, we can. Otherwise, I can find something else.
This looks great. Let's do it.
Okay, just give me a second to send this to somebody. So that deck will reward you for actually, like, how do I word this? Understanding what threats you actually have to deal with and what threats you can afford to let hit you a couple of times can become really important in decks like this.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a place where I really...
Why can I not paste this deck list? What the hell? Alright, either way, we can get started into games if you want. Everything's going good, MG. So whenever you're good to get in games, we could try this or work through it.
I'm find opponent now.
Okay. So yeah, I picked this deck because specifically you mentioned you had issues with like basically threat identification.
For sure, yeah.
So this is a style that might like might be able to do it. One thing that comes up sometimes when you play these decks is you sit there like, I've drawn 40 cards and I haven't seen any sweepers. That happens. So it's about maximizing the games that could be won.
I honestly am not sure.
Alright, so I'm just going to mention this. I don't know if you know who your opponent is, but he's probably playing Phone Control.
10 to 10.
I don't like this hand very much, though, because you don't have any card draw, any card filtering, etc. You're just on Feast Collar. This hand, obviously, if you're against Phone Control, it's a little bit meh, but it's a really good hand otherwise. So your influence requirements of the deck are 4 Primal, 2 Justice, and 1 Shadow. So I do like just getting your Shadow now, though.
Makes sense.
Because your channels are so far away, like, you could deal with them later. I wouldn't play your Shadow Source for a little bit if you can, though. Like, I'd just cast your Strat off the seat. And the reason for that is, some people are playing, Rain of Frogs and Sabotage and Setback, and you want to get the Cobalt Waystone if you can.
And you like using Strategize now?
Yeah. Well, you know you're against Feln, so like you know this Hailstorm is just trash, so you probably want to get rid of it. Yeah, I'd just get rid of Hailstorm. Of course, Vay, he's playing Phone Control. But this hand is okay. So if he doesn't really do a lot, like, you want to keep playing your Primal Sigils, because you're getting closer to your Waystone in case you draw it. But here, I think you just play Privilege. Just get through the deck. So, although we are quite flooded here, we find any, like, Wisdom or anything like that, we're just in a nice spot. This is, I think, a favorable matchup. Okay. So, one thing to note, because you want to thin out and you want to cast your Seek Power here, is you have to remember the fact that you have Justice Sigils for Privilege, so you want to take something other than a Justice Source. Just in case you draw another Privilege.
Channel too, right?
Yeah. Our draw needs some extra card draw, but if we could find some Wisdoms and stuff, well, like, your Eye of Winter is like a massive MVP in this matchup. I would not recommend just jamming the hammer, but now you have a very clean answer to a Feast Caller when he plays one. I would play your other Justice Sigil just because he knows about that one. But until you actually have to play it for turn, holding that Shadow Sigil is probably nice just so he doesn't play around something like Slay. And boom, now you get to just eat the Feasty. Yeah. Now you just get to eat Feast Caller. And this actually puts a clock on the board. It's a slow one, but it's a clock.
You know, there's not much we can do, but is there anything to do to start thinking about his Zindles, or?
Yeah, draw a Cobalt Waystone. Like, we don't have an answer.
Right, yeah.
We just, like, this deck has enough answers in the deck that, like, if you get got by it, then it's whatever. Like, you cast Strategize with a pretty good opening hand, and since then you've drawn a lot of meh cards in the matchup. Like, you haven't drawn any Wisdoms or another Seek. So if you get gifted here, you're going to lose, most likely. But
Yep.
really, what are you going to do about it? Honestly, nothing. Like, I think, like, I don't think we mulliganed bad. I would have definitely, like, I'm happy with our strategized choice, etc. That's interesting. So, keep in mind,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
he could play Lightning Strike. So if you're playing Throw Warden, which I assume you are, you want to do it before you attack.
Makes sense.
That sounds about right, MG. Just catching up on chat a little
They
bit.
did not play Feast Caller. Let's say they did not play Feast Caller, and it was like turn 6 or 7. The hammer then, just to think about as Zindles.
No, because he could play Harbinger or Vera's favor and make it kind of embarrass us. So I would have, like, religiously held.
You always have to turn to play the hammer anyways. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Now, if he went, that's fine. I think you just let that happen a lot of the time here. I think Islands is a removal spell. That's a great draw, though. So you could just keep hitting, like... He might just die to hammer at this point. Because you could deal with a Harbinger, too. So now I'd play your power. One nice thing is if he goes, like, Hailstorm plus Coldblood, I would Islands choice that.
Makes sense.
Because, like, this is gonna be a 2-for-1. I would also Islands choice that. Holy shit. That's amazing.
You don't want to make my
Alright, we did it. Hey, that was good.
Yeah, that's how you do it. I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised we won that game. Purely because we didn't find a lot of card draw, but we got there. So let's jump into another one. That's a pretty easy matchup, generally speaking. Now that game could have been a lot harder if he drawn like a Harbinger or something. Because you get put in an awkward spot where, like in some matchups you have to actually evaluate threats more. This head sucks. This head is so bad.
I guess my thought is A, just because we know we don't want power.
I think you redraw this because if your opponent is actually going to be doing anything in the first, let's say, 4 turns, you're probably not beating it. Oh, wait. Did you redraw into this?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
My first hand only had 1 power, so I redrew pretty quick.
This is close to the worst possible hand I could give you. I guess 3 channels, 2 swords, 2 powers, the worst hand. But like really, this is just so bad that like you may as well just say this. Like you got to get some hot heat covered.
Do you agree with Crest first? Or
yeah, you need to find stuff right now. I think you have to take it.
Partial, yeah.
Yeah, even if your opponent's unitless control, you just have to take it. This is a tough match. If it's Praxis mid-range. If your Praxis Token's your favorite. So, I think you need to think about your ordering here. I think you want to seek for a Justice first and play the Justice, and then cast another Seek.
Makes sense.
And I would just get your second Justice out of the way. Obviously, we feel bad if we drop Privilege, but like, we also want to turn Waystones on potentially, so that's a great draw. So I just jam a Waystone and get that Wisdom going. If both of you are doing nothing, so if your against Praxis mid-range, is there a pause here at the end of turn?
Oh no, sorry. Do I want a Wisdom on their turn? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just making sure we're on the same page about that.
Yeah, just in case there's something random. So if he was playing like Praxis main range, if he doesn't Dawnwalker you to death, you're fine. That's why that matchup is tough. But if it's Praxis tokens, you're quite favored. Let me know if there's a pause. So if you're going to be playing a crest this turn, because you want to get your seek power out of hand, I would just seek your primal before you play your crest, in case there's a primal on top of your deck. Probability of this kind of hand is very low. What do you think?
I guess ditch it. I don't think we want it. But...
I think you ditch it, even though you need the 8th panel for channel, 8th power for channel. You will find it eventually. Now the question is just, what do you do if he plays like a Titan? Do you develop Feast Caller, or do you want to do nothing? Or what is this? Is this Praxis? Is this Praxis Warp?
Oh.
Well, either way, like, you just play your Primal and put Feasty in play, because your opponent didn't threaten you this turn. Like, he didn't make you...
If I played a Titan, I would have said Vanquished. I guess my thought is kill all their stuff before you put Feast Caller out.
Yeah, there also would have been the argument to do literally nothing, to see if he wants to play into Harsh Rule. Because your life total is a resource. What is this deck?
Wow, double Stone Shaker. He might have had a worse hand than ours.
So, the question is, do you want to crest before you attack or after? I think you want to crest first because you know what type of cards you're looking for now. I think you always just top that in a matchup like this. And I think you just attack. There's nothing he can really do. That's fine. So, to know against let's assume we're against Praxis Warp. That means you're often going to... He's going to have a turn probably at some point where he just explodes onto the board. That's why you just want to have the Harsh Rules.
Makes sense.
And, like, if that's his turn, you get to Vanquish it and draw 2 cards. Okay? So... You have a couple of options here, because if you Vanquish and then attack, he's going to trade his board for Feast Card, and you see 2 cards. The question is, how do you feel about that? So if he trades his whole board and you Vanquish and you draw 2 cards, I think you're winning that game. So I think you Vanquish and attack, and then you strat after. I like crest first earlier, by the way, guys, because you're looking for certain cards. You knew what you wanted. Okay. That gives you the board, and now you just develop. So I'd strat before you play the crest, just because you see more cards this way, and we don't really know what we want. So I think you could bottom like the Justice Sigil, or wait, yeah, that's the wrong one, Jerry. Because I forgot you had a Cobalt Wasteland. So I would strat again before you crest. And let's see what we get. I think you're in a good spot this game. That's weird. So, you have 2 options here. You either toss the Seat, so you could cast Channel next turn, or you toss the Privilege.
I'm running low on time, too.
I think you give away the Seat. And play the crest. And I think you take it.
Ran out of time. It might have bottomed it. Does it bottom it if you run out of time?
I don't know, but you did bottom it. So I would have topped it because it gets warped. There's a lot of these stuff like Blink Wolf.
It's written right here.
And I like cleaning up the board for like a Sword of the Sky King. What? What? So this is an interesting turn. I think I just like playing Privilege and on his turn casting Islands on the dragon.
Makes sense.
So you just get out your crest here. That's always fine. And this is going to kind of incentivize him to do something. So yeah, I'd Islands the dragon. And once you commit, you can blow up the board. You probably win this game by throwing 3 channels at his face, to be honest.
Nice.
And if he, like, plays another threat... I think I just, like, strat. before you do anything. Specifically, one card I'm looking for is Eye of Winter. There's a 1-of, and it's very good here. Let's just toss either of your power. That's not Cobalt. I think you may as well develop your Cobalt Waystone. And so the question here is, do you want to Vanquish or Harsh Rule? How much pressure do you feel you're under? So you could Harsh Rule because...
Minimal.
Say again?
Minimal pressure, it seems like.
We're taking 2 return, that's it. I think I just Vanquish it. So, you go to 15. Now, he does have Charge or Flying and everything. But, like, that's just such a bad draw step. That was problematic. So now I think you just want to Harsh Rule this board. I also think I want a second IV. So he knows about the Justice Sigil potential, so I'd play that. And now we're just kind of on the channel train. So if he has 1 weak turn, you just run away with the game. Okay. This Soulfire Drake might become a problem, though. So, I think you're kind of forced to channel a unit this game. I think you just channel the Trailmaker. Which is kind of awkward, but like, you have a lot of good draws. And that's what we're looking for, is Sword. So you can play out your seat, Wisdom, and hope you don't die. If he hits, you know, Heart of the Vault with Charge, we're in trouble. But we have to still play in a way that can still win this game, and that Sword is the way we do it. Let's see what Wisdom gets us. So I think your best draw is like Eye is good, Island's Choice is good, Feast Caller is okay. So you could Harsh Rule plus Feast Caller here, and that blocks a lot of things. Because you have a second rule, so you just want to stabilize the board. So I actually like that a lot.
Harsh Rule and Feasty?
Yeah, I think I like that. And it also blocks if he hits, you know, his Trailmakers or whatever. And then Sword is also going to gain you a bunch of life. Okay, so is he going to put you to 4? That's the question. Yes, you kill the Trail. So, you need to keep an eye on your life total here. So, yeah. I think there's a couple of things we can do, but I think the line I like taking, as weird as it is Eye of Winter, stun the 2-1, play Sword, or I guess you don't need to play Eye then. So what you could do, I think, is just play Sword, and, well, how do I say this? I think you start with Wisdom, and just see what you get, because I don't think you need to play Eye. Okay, and I just like Sword plus kill the 2-1. And I do not think you attack with Feast Caller.
Okay.
And you can play your power. Because this deck can use all of its power.
Serving the Aegis?
Yep.
We just want the power?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could use your 14th power, you know, if you find it. The situation. So if he has a shitty turn here, he probably just dies. That's not a shitty turn. But I mean, you get to vanquish it, and then you don't care too much. And you have, what, 12? You almost have lethal. So, you're going to want to end up vanquishing this game, but I think what you want to start with, like the order here, you vanquish Wisdom channel is 13 power. Now the question is, do you Wisdom for extra damage? I don't think so. So I think you just channel his face and see what happens. You're looking for Island's Choice.
To face?
Yep. You're going to end up vanquishing, but you want the extra point of damage off this. Alright, no islands. So you just can vanquish his dude, and I think you just hit with Sword. I don't think you have to hit with Feasty. And now you can just hold up Wisdom, which bluffs the islands, which could matter. I would have held that Waystone. I just think we could use the power Okay. If that's his turn, he's dead. Because we have the sway. And there's islands.
I think we got it.
Yeah, and he's just dead to the channel. If you want. Like, doesn't matter how you kill him. Alright, I think he's dead to channel. Yep.
Thanks, both.
Cool.
That's been going well.
Yeah, I think decks like this, once you get used to the style, are quite powerful. They could take a while to get used to. If you want to keep jamming games with it, we could keep talking about it. Chat, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah. I'm saying it's fun. I'm trying to think. I think I probably would have been attacking with Feast Caller at the end there, so that's a good thing to keep in mind. To just worry about the life total more.
So my thought process was, if you looked at our hand was answers and it had channel, which was, direct damage. All you needed to do was your opponent not to just warp in a bunch of blink wolves or something and kill you. So I thought holding back Feast Caller was fine. The one concern there was you were at, including the sword, you were at like 10 health. And my concern was him flipping a Heart in the Vault with charge. And in that case, I would rather be able to chump with the Feast Caller than have an extra card and deal 4.
Yeah. No, it's good. It makes sense. I think that's a good thing for me to think about. Any thoughts on this hand?
I'm getting into your game now. You on the play or the draw? Draw.
At a time.
I like this hand a lot.
We got card selection. Got crest.
You got something for every matchup, so you can just lead on your crest. Sure, that's fine. It's good into most Shadow decks that play Seek. Tells you it's a Shadow deck that wants to go a little later. And if it's Fountain Control, that's great. This hand's solid. Because you can just go, okay, cast Strategize here. Get rid of your Hailstorm, probably.
Seems probably play the seat, huh?
Yeah, I'd play Seat and then Strat. So I would just get rid of Hailstorm. One interesting thing to think about is what power, what do you cast next turn? Because you can Wisdom or Privilege. So what do you like this turn?
I think. I guess since we're not under any pressure, Privilege.
I like Privilege because you already have all the answers. And it just sets up your power drops for the future, so you can worry about, developing card draw and stuff, and not ever sitting there like, it's turn 5 and I need to play Throne Warden, but damn, I missed a power drop. Your opponent, by the way, if you look at his power, I think he needs these Vera's Favors. I don't think he has a lot of power in his hand. So he's so far away from all his primal threats. I think you just play your waste down here, though. He's burned through 3 Vera's Favors. He's not good at popping it. And then you can bluff something, or you can Wisdom now in order to try to hit a Seek power. Normally I would just Wisdom now, though, just in case you hit Seek. That bluff is worth so little with that Waystone up. Cool. You could argue that you should have Wisdomed first, so if you hit a crest, but I think having Waystone up is worth more than that. Just in case you got, like, Rain of Frogs or something. So
I guess crest here, because I don't think we need to play Throne Warden, yeah.
I kind of just like getting Throne Wardens out, though. You already have an Aegis, so if he wants to go and kill it, you don't get IC beta in the game, so you can go Throne Warden, and then next turn Throne Warden Crest, and then you have 8 armor building towards your sword. And if you have an 8/16 sword, your opponent should concede. Your phone can't beat it. Like, ever. So, Feast Caller, I think you just want to Runehammer this. Your Runehammer's still fine to eat the armor. To note for ordering, though, you're going to be playing a Crest this turn, most likely. Or you could Crest, you could Seek plus Crest, or you could Strat. What do you like more?
like you said, we're not under pressure. We got a lot of the cards that we need, so I think I like Seek plus Crest.
I do too. So I would seek first though, in case you see the power on top that you want. And you leave the justice sources in if you can.
That goes in the stack, or it's just Slay, right?
It's just Slay. It doesn't matter what you get anymore. All your power is turned on, but I would not get a justice. Oh boy. Yeah. It's okay. And then you can crest after this. So what do you want off your crest? Guard draw. That's fine. Just makes your opponent do something. And our board is already making him do something. Like, so I think you're going for a Vanquish plus 5-drop, but what 5-drop do you like?
I guess I sort of like Throne Warden, but maybe I'm just being greedy with the weapons.
I think you are being greedy with the weapons. I think I like Feast Color. And the reason is your opponent has so few cards in hand, if he's going to spend his turn killing Jolton, then he's going to take 8 from your Runehammer plus Throne Warden anyways. So I think you just want to develop Feasty. But remember to cast your Feasty before you do anything, so you don't reveal anything. Like, before you attack is what I mean. The Vanquishing order doesn't matter. And now, if your opponent somehow beats your first weapon plus Vanquish, you have Sword the Sky King. Like, okay. Is he dead? No, 1 off.
6, 9. Oh, wait, so it would be a channel for 8
7.
plus 12 plus 16, right?
No, because you have to play the power first. So channel is only 4 plus 3.
Play?
Your channel is only going to be 4. Like, there's 4 cards in your hand already after channel plus power. And then there's the 3 you draw. I would channel first, though, for the same reason as earlier, though. The sequencing of it.
Seems right, opponent.
He's not dead.
Can't lose.
I don't know who's... I think chat is arguing about this. You have to play the power, boys. Yeah, deck is probably, like, my favorite hardcore control deck in the game right now. So is there anything in these games so far that you've been like, I don't really get this, or I want to talk about a certain play a bit more?
Nothing too confusing. I think, the big things have just been stuff, thinking about, what is it that I'm looking for in the crests? What is it that I'm looking for on the, the card filtering stuff?
Yeah, fair.
And then being patient on some of the unit weapon stuff, I think are the big things I've been thinking about.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. So let's jump into a couple more games. We have, what, like a half-hour-ish left here, so we can do that. So one thing I think a lot of the times you play these decks, you need to be asking yourself, what can't I beat?
Yeah,
and that's important to actually know the answer of. What do you think of this hand?
I think redraw seems bad.
I like to redraw this because you need a lot of influence and you don't have any answer to someone actually doing anything. You have 0 answers in that hand. This hand is quite good. One thing is, what do you want to seek on turn 1?
I'm going to say yes, just because we have a couple 3-drops.
Sure, I agree, but what do you get? I think you have to get Primal, just in case he's aggro. Slay is nice, but you need the double Primal for Wisdom and stuff. If shit hits the fan, you have to be able to react. It's important. And we are against another control deck, it appears. So we can strat and dig through the deck. Keep in mind against control, you want to play your primal sigils. You gotta hit Waystones, if you can.
Strategize here?
Yep. Your hand already has some weak cards against what I'm presuming is control, specifically the Hailstorm. I just like tossing Storm. And because of that, you're okay to do it. If your hand was like basically near perfect, you could consider holding strat for a turn. But in this case, you knew you wanted more power and you knew you had a weak card. Well, that's a good draw. So we can just Wisdom here. Post at the end of his turn. So this is a very important matchup. When basically any deck right now is TJP. If you're gonna Wisdom on end step, and if you draw a undepleted power, the odds of you losing this game go down so much. Okay, you didn't. So what do you like doing here?
I think Seek. Yeah, I don't think there's any need to react to the Commando just yet. So I think maybe Seek for a Shadow.
I definitely think you're seeking for a Shadow. But what do you want to do with your other 3 mana? Do you want a Wisdom or do you want an Enforcer or Slay?
And then I guess I think Slay.
I don't think Slay. And the reason for it is Pacifier. You want to get this Runehammer down. So I think you can either play... I personally am leaning towards Enforcer. And the reason for it is next turn you also have a power. Also,
okay.
Rest in Peace Hailstorm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if we assume control off Primal plus Seek, and maybe that was a bit ambitious, but our hand was already pretty good against a creature deck anyways, that I'm not biting myself for it. Obviously, right here it could be okay, but I'm not biting myself for that decision. So yeah, if he just jams basically if he has a turn that's not too intense, this is great. So you're gonna get to Seek and get your power, but I think you just want to jam these Runehammers. But first, see if there's a pause when you Seek. Is there a pause?
Oh, wait, I can't tell. It would happen after I choose the sigil, right?
No. If there was no delay, right, when you cast Seek?
No delay. Yeah,
no finest hour then. So I think you can just Runehammer the 2/3. The flying one, obviously.
And then hold back Enforcer to protect the Runehammer?
Yeah. And if he goes Equivocate, you're okay with that, I think. Because he doesn't really get to develop a ton unless he plays a third 3-drop here to go with it. If his turn involves dealing with Enforcer, it's a pretty weak turn. And if his turn doesn't involve dealing with Enforcer, Runehammer is a 2-for-1. And you have Eye of Winter, which is... It's probably the best card in your entire deck in this matchup. So I just attack it before you do anything. Just see if... Nope, Runehammer.
I said attack it.
Yeah, I meant attack it as in Commando. So there's a pause here upon attacks, right? So I would just kill the 2/3. And if he Finest hours you, it's fine. If he drew Finest, it's not a big deal. So, because he doesn't have a board, I just strat. Strat, and then you're probably going to just Wisdom. But you just want to hit your power drop. And... I honestly probably just toss the Feast Caller. I don't think you need to win with creatures this game. So you can just main phase Wisdom to hit a power. That's really all you're trying to do is hit a power. Cool. And now you just have so much priority because you have Eye of Winter. Okay. So this is actually interesting because you want to hit your power. So as weird as it is, I actually just think you Slay plus Privilege. I guess it's not weird, but I don't think you are forced to develop Eye, and you really would like to hit power. and you want to win this game with sword.
And I should have attacked before. Well, I don't know what one power I would conceal, but just to start getting into the habit.
Levitate Finest Hour could be in your Magical Christmas on Hirusui deck. It could happen, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So
that's just a good habit to get into, too.
That's annoying, but I think you're just like, I have Winter Privilege, stun it, hit for 3. Like, until your opponent really commits, you don't have to care. I don't know how many Justice Sigils are in your deck. Just one? Cool. So you can just stun it and hit him for 3, and then, like, you're just in a good spot. Hey, Axer. Sheltering will be garbage this match. It's a 4 mana 05. So you're now in the position though where your opponent is the one who has to make any decisions. Like you have you have Harsh Rule. So in all seriousness, his choices don't matter too much. We've known he has a pause though. So I don't hate just casting Harsh Rule here. Because he can't stand together.
I guess the pause could be Finest Hour, but the pause also could be some +1 Aegis thing that stand together.
Well, here's what we can do. Because it doesn't matter, you're not going to use your power because Tempo Enforcer's not needed. Just stun his 3/4, the one that's not stunned, and see if there's a pause. There is.
Pause, yeah.
Okay, so there's a Finest, or there's a Equivocate. Either way, let's punch him for 3.
Alright, because standing together's 3, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and we can just Harsh Rule. And this is now, well, if you had a stand, you have to commit at some point. So we can just Harsh Rule and play our Crest. And now our Sword the Sky King's online. So we know there's either Finest or Equivocate. If he probably should Equivocate his own unit here, yeah. Just to keep himself with threats. But this is fine. You can just Crest. I don't think we need it.
Yeah.
But I say could we just throw the sword at whatever he plays this turn? That's so bad. Yeah, I just cast sword and throw it at it. Worst case scenario, he Finest Hours and your sword takes 7 damage. But then he burns everything for that. I guess he could Equivocate, but that's not really doing him favors. Okay. So your sword goes to 1, but that's okay. And you could play your seat here because you could use all the power. Like if you drew Wisdom into channel. Eye of Winter does beat TJP very badly. Okay.
What do you see?
So you can't eye that. I just Harsh Rule. It's a 2 for 1. And this requires your opponent to play yet another answer. And you could play one of your power. I don't think you need to tempo the Enforcer still. Okay.
They're dead, right?
No, because you can't. If you stun it, you still have to attack it. So let's just Crest and see what's on top. Sure. So I would just stun his unit. And not attack it. Unless he casts Stand together. If he casts Stand, then you trade the weapon. But I wouldn't even attack. Another Equivocate. Like, this isn't... Unless he hits, like, Sensari Bring It, this isn't helping him.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand that Equivocate from the opponent.
I think he's just trying to find like a charge unit. There are a couple. Or Nightfall, you know, just something to contest you. Okay. So you can... The ordering here is a little awkward. So I think what you want to do is, in order, slay the 4/4, silence the 2/2, which will be a 3/3, and then stun the student. And then you're ahead. But you want to make sure you silence before you stun.
Right.
Alaba, thank you for the follow, dude. Welcome on in. And you don't need to kill it with sword. Sword makes him just toss units into you, basically, right now. Okay. Attack for 3 before you harsh rule, just to make sure, because he could have stand. Is there a pause here? Because if you harsh rule and he plays stand, you're in trouble. So, there is a real argument, like, was there a pause when you attacked?
Yeah.
Then I would just Eye of Winter well, I would attack the 2/2 student, because that one can grow bigger. I would just give him your sword. And then stun the 3/3.
So use the sword on the 2/2, and then I have Winter the other guy.
Yep. Because this basically this is you beating stand together. So you know, okay, if he plays a flyer, then Enforcer is good enough.
That's good to think about. I think I probably on my own would have just gone for it there.
To be honest with you, about half the time I probably would have went for it myself too, and then lost the game somehow. Like, that's a situation that...
mentality is important.
So, you don't need to channel yet, I'd just attack face and he should die. Okay, it's a quiv, so you just shoot him in the face with the channel. Cool. So we're what, 4-0 or 5-0 with this deck?
Crushing.
Yeah. That's, yeah, I think...
Time for one more?
Yeah, we can do that. It's up to you. We have, like... We technically have, like, 10 minutes left, but, like, up to you here. I don't really care. You're the director here.
Sure. I mean, you know, maybe just because we're winning, but this deck's been really fun.
Yeah, we could play... You know, we could just sit... We'll say we'll play 2 more games. That's what we'll do.
Great.
So you're in game. We'll talk it through. Alright, so we played against Zedda, and we already know he's playing Felon Control, so I don't like this hand at all. Because it doesn't have card draw. I think you just crest. You just want to dig for card draw. I don't even think you want that, to be honest with you. Just because there's better things. Also, I love my opponent's hand size. He has like 20 cards in his hand. I don't really care, professional coacher, exactly. So you could just play your seat. Like, you're just building towards the wisdom next turn. I'd love to know how many cards are in our opponent's hand constantly. So you could just play your Primal Sigil. Again, you're playing towards the Waystone. Now, if he's playing Rain of Frogs, and you get Rain of Frogs here, and he takes your channels, then we're going to feel really sad. But besides that, we're probably fine. Just because our hand is quite good, assuming we actually hit our power. If we don't, we're in trouble. Well, there's our power.
Get that privilege on.
Yeah, just cast Privilege. Cast those Justice Sigils, get them out there. I like... Your opponent is the one who has to do something, I think, in this match. I think, you know, I think eventually you do win, like if the game goes late enough. So I think it's your opponent who actually has to do something. Okay, there goes the channel most likely. I have no idea, but I'm gonna put feedback in either way after the stream, Ray. I've already taken a screenshot and saved it somewhere.
It's 6 cards.
Alright, cool. That's the best card in your deck. If you can cast that, you're going to win. So, you just play power, you say go, and... like, your hand can answer every threat in the whole deck. So... okay, he's just taking both channels as you draw sword. Yeah, he takes that. That's fine. Crest is a fine pickup. How many cards are in his hand?
5 now.
I don't mind Feast Caller here now. Just makes him do something. Now, if he plays his Indo's Gift, it doesn't matter what we do. We know that. Because we haven't seen a single waste, though. Alright, we can jam Feasty, make him do something. I think he knows every card in our hand besides Harsh Rule. But I can't remember if he knows that. So this could be like Perma. Yeah, that's fine. So I like just wisdoming before you make any decisions. Okay, Strat. Because again, you still have the answer if you don't draw into point of power. Be in a storm. Probably, yeah. And you can just vanquish and play a power, and then, like, again, your opponent has to do something. Okay. So, you could just channel his face if you want to draw cards. You could also just wisdom. Either of those is fine. Channel is probably better. Because you want to hit your power that sees you the most cards. And we're playing 2 Sword the Sky King for this matchup. Or for this style of deck, so... if he doesn't do anything here like he did last turn, you just jam Sword, the game ends. Unless he has, like, double Lightning Strike. So you should just be able to Sword him to death now. What do you think?
I guess I think bottom. But maybe you just always want more power.
I think you top it just because you know you can use the power. And, like, your hand is already near perfect. I mean, I think he's dead next turn. Like, before 6, 7... yeah, if he doesn't play a Waystone and doesn't play any units, he dies if you channel him first. Okay, now he doesn't. So you can just attack and channel him. And he'll go to 1. But I would channel before you crest. Because you deal more damage here. Okay. How many cards are in your hand? 4, 6, 10? So I like just playing the Sigil and saying go. And then end of turn wisdom. Cool.
Just been a punish Xenaton stream.
Yeah, we're just gotta show him where you gotta be hanging out. All right, so we'll do one more game and then we'll end off the session.
Okay, what are we 5-0 now?
Yeah,
Control deck?
I think so.
Killing it.
I think these decks are really rewarding. Are you in game?
Jeez. It's a weird one.
Is this your original hand or your, I'd keep this hand. Because you have access to Hailstorm. And, yeah, oh god. Most decks with Echo I don't like this hand against just because they're normally slow decks. This is better against more aggressive, but I think this is a fine hand. So you could be against, like, Roaches, which I think is a bad match. But we can crest. Yes. That's one of the best things we could pick up here. And now you have, what, 4 power in hand? So this is fine. So in your seeking, this is weird because you need to decide what you want to seek. You can either go get a you're definitely getting at least one justice source. You can do that one first and then play it. The question is, do you even want to cast your second seek? I don't even think you do, because you don't need to hailstorm next turn. And you don't know if you want primal or justice yet. So I would actually wait.
Interesting. Yeah, hanging on to seeks is not a thing I've been thinking about. To think about that more.
It's not something that comes up that often, but it can come up. So we know he has 2 echoes, and we know at least one other is Herald Song. And then he has 2 sigils in his hand. That's the info we have about his hand.
This deck on? What is this, you think?
This might be... It could be a Reanimator deck, but I doubt it. What did he toss away? A banner? This might just be roaches and just playing extra card draw. So now I think you... Do you even want to seek yet? Not really.
Okay.
I don't think you need to Runehammer. So I would just play Shadow and pass. You could, and if you were to, I think you'd have to get a Justice, but your opponent's not pressuring you, and if he's playing Herald Song, he's not trying to pressure you yet. I have no idea what his other echoes are. It could be more Heralds. Okay, so he has another Herald Song in his hand. And he has another Sigil in his hand. We know that. So now I think you seek for a Primal. So you can cast Wisdom at a turn. And boom, we got rewarded for holding on to our seek. So he tossed double Lightning Storm. I have no idea what my opponent's actually doing. Like, what his deck does.
Second side, probably.
I'm thinking it's a Roach's deck, but I don't know. I mean, either way, like, you can just execute your game plan here, especially if you keep hitting those power, yeah. Alright, so you can jam probably a Feast Caller on this board. He's playing a Legion, he doesn't have that many answers. And he has a pause, so he has Levitate. Is your opponent playing, like... I don't know, is there a Spells Matters deck he's trying to play? Like, I have no idea. He's in the wrong colors to play Moment. Like, I just think you play another Feast Caller. Now, like, if he can kill this, it's fine. He has 1 card in hand. You can just develop Throne Warden and say, what up? It could be Carpet Shuffle, but I don't know what Heralds is for. So yeah, like, you get to this channel, you're good. And if he plays something, you just can Runehammer. Like, I just attack and play Runehammer at this point. I think you're just so far ahead you can play aggressive. I think our opponent kind of fizzled out, though. I think he just ran out of stuff. Like, he just drew cards and didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Could be Exodia. It's a Static Bolt deck. Look at that. It's Carpet Shuffle.
It's what?
Alright, I'll explain Carpet Shuffle after the game, because I think your opponent's just going to die. But if you just want to channel his face and punch him for a bit. So...
The sequencing here? No, it doesn't matter.
I mean, in reality, you should channel first, but...
Yeah, always card draw first.
Well, not only that, it just shows that, like, you don't have any power you could be holding. So if you had something... Drew, I presume a Herald? Yeah. So Carpet Shuffle is a deck that basically shuffles Static Bolt to the top of your deck a bunch of times. Alright, so you can't kill him this turn, but you could just hit him and draw all of your deck. So, you may as well face some of this at least. Alright, cast all the strats. So, basically Carpet Shuffle tries to put Static Board on the top of his deck a bunch of times, so he draws it and gives it Echo. It used to be a thing with the Primal dude. I think you can just play a Crest and cast Wisdom in a turn now.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, you're just looking for the second channel in case something happens. But basically, you second sight Static Bolt to the top of the deck like a billion times because you make them free, and then you kill someone. You OTK somebody. You Carpet Shuffle in 2017 or 2018, sorry, by drawing like 40 power. So you could just Harsh Roll and kill him. Or that. That's the better one.
Defeated, and some say undefeatable.
Yeah, the deck's great. You also seem to enjoy this style from what I'm getting.
Really fun, man. We killed all their stuff and then we whooped the crap out of them.
Yeah, happened every game. Chat just asked, how are the dates proceeding? I would say this was a pretty good date. I'd say it's a pretty good first date.
We'd go on second.
What did you say?
That was a lot of fun and a lot of really good things to think about.
Cool, man. I hope you enjoyed this. You know that I'm new to coaching, so once we talk after about feedback, I'm interested. Because this is something I definitely want to do more of. I'm gonna throw the VOD up on my YouTube channel tonight or tomorrow. It's gonna be like 2 hours, so it's gonna take a while to upload. But yeah, it was really fun to have you here. I'm happy we finally got to do some coaching, because I've been hoping to get this ball rolling, and hopefully this gets more people interested. So, yeah, thank you for joining us.
For sure, it's great. And, I just think the way that you approach the game and the way you think about it, you're really good at this. And to write a recommendation, I don't know, happy to write a testimonial or whatever.
All right, man. Thank you for joining us. And I'm also going to, before I end the call, you can leave if you want. I don't care. I'm just going to sign out on stream here. So this was something different to do on stream here, guys. I hope people enjoyed it. As you guys know, I'm giving away a coaching session soon to a sub. That'll be somewhere very soon. I just need to figure out my work schedule for next week before I can actually make that happen. But I want to say thanks to everyone who tuned in today. And I hope people enjoyed this type of content. And hopefully more people want to do this. I have a flat rate, But thank you guys all for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.